I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the Pantech Perception video review. Can this thing compete, and is this thing worth buying over the Galaxy S3 or the Apple iPhone 4S? We'll find out in part 2, which starts right now. Perception is everything, and cheesy joke aside, the Pantech Perception, there's a lot to like about it. It's a new device that's available at Verizon Wireless right now for $99.99 and brings to the table a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, 1 gigabyte of RAM, a 4.8-inch HD display, an 8-megapixel camera, a front-facing shooter. So from a specifications perspective, it's right up there with some of the other high-end devices on the market, and better yet, it's $100 at Verizon Wireless. The problem, though, is the Galaxy S3, the former high-end device of Samsung, and the iPhone 4S, the former high-end device of Apple, are both around the $99 price point as well. So my question is, at $100, is it better to get the older device that still, in a lot of ways, has better specifications, or do you go with the newer device that has some cool features like motion sense, which you can make calls effortlessly by moving your hand over the display, or do you go with something like the S3 or the iPhone 4S, which have Android 4.1 and iOS 6, so newer versions of the respective operating systems, and a couple of other goodies, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It's a tough call. We're going to try to figure that out as we roll into part 2 of the review. Before we do that, though, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy Mobile. They give us devices like this, and I'm actually going to pick up some today at Best Buy Mobile. And we just give them to you on the site at PhoneDog.com. So I think that's pretty cool, and I always like to give them a shout. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. So whether you get the Perception or the One or the Galaxy Nexus, which I guess isn't even out anymore, Galaxy S4, whatever the case may be, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, your contacts, camera settings. So when you go out the door, you got everything set up. You don't have to waste your time setting stuff up unless you want to. In that case, they'll make sure you walk out working with your bill stuff, and you can set up the phone yourself at Best Buy Mobile. So let's take a look at speed tests and jump right in here. Verizon's 4G LTE network on this device, and then we'll say, whoops, did not mean to do that. I agree. Hey, and let me know what you think of this camera angle as well. I'm kind of curious because I switched the camera angle around a couple of days ago because I got this table from somebody that was moving out of my office space, and I thought, hey, free table. I'll try it and see how it works on camera. That is my theory with a lot of things, actually. But let me know what you think of this on camera and the way this camera angle is on YouTube. Let's take a look here. Verizon promises 5 to 12 megabits per second on the download, 2 to 5 megabits per second on the upload, and it's falling right in line with Verizon's promised settings, or Verizon's promised numbers. 11.62 megabits per second, upload speed 5.12-ish megabits per second. And so far, data speeds have been pretty impressive on this device, 5.70 megabits per second. So pretty decent all around. I've gotten within the window of 5 to 12 almost every single time, and actually a couple of times, depending on where I'm at in the Dallas Metroplex, I get between 15 and 20 megabits per second. So Verizon's LTE, yes, it's more saturated than AT&T's or T-Mobile's or Sprint's, but still pretty decent speeds considering how saturated it actually is. Let's load up Quadrant Standard as well. Keep in mind a couple of things. This has a dual-core processor, 1 gigabyte of RAM, so the Quadrant Standard scores aren't going to be as high as something like the Galaxy S4 or the HTC One. But again, my question I keep going back to, I'm like, okay, this is $100. Should I go with this with a gigabyte of RAM and Android 4.0 out of the box, ice cream sandwich? Or should I go with the Galaxy S3, which is $100 also, around $100 on Verizon, and has a dual-core processor also, 2 gigs of RAM, and Android 4.1? It's a tough call. You got to make that call yourself, I would say. But let's take a look at Quadrant Standard here. So far, call quality has been very good. Verizon's network, obviously, is great across the nation. Like the availability of 4G LTE on Verizon Wireless, it's pretty impressive. So kudos to them on that, on the rollout. They started in December of 2010. It continues to perform really well, as you saw in the speed tests. And call quality's been good as well. I haven't had any issues. Called my mom on this device, actually, and she had no problems hearing me, and call quality was good on my end as well. So Quadrant Standard should be finishing up now. We can take a look and see how this device performs. I should also add from part 1, a bunch of Verizon applications pre-installed on this device. Backup Assistant Plus, Viewdini, NFL Mobile, all the stuff you would expect from a Verizon device. 5,217 on Quadrant Standard. So, you know, it's not always indicative of day-to-day performance, and I say that in every video, but I want to make that clear. This only has 1 gigabyte of RAM, but I really haven't experienced any slowdowns, so to speak, on this device. I mean, everything loads up pretty fast, as you can see. Quick contacts, move through here, browser, PhoneDog.com was loaded up in part 1. Let me see, yeah, still got it loaded up over here. PhoneDog.com loaded up. Pinch to zoom's nice and responsive. So even though it's only 5,217 on Quadrant Standard, keep in mind that's not always a driver of day-to-day performance. It's still, as you can see here, pretty reasonably fast for a device that out the door is $100, and I expect to only drop as time goes on. So you may be able to get this for even more of a deal in the next couple of months if you can wait, or if your upgrade's a couple of months away. We'll take a look here. Options, mode, effects, settings. You can see your effects. Got some color effects in here. Grayscale, I can never say this word. Sepia, I think. Aqua, and then mode, instant film, division. I can do division here. I can do instant film. Take a picture, and you'll see how it looks. My beautiful black desk here. Actually, I'll take a picture of my unboxing knife, which I happen to have over here on the side. There we go. And let's see how it looks once it gets put in. There it is. Hi. And then I'll hit save and go right back. So I've got my instant film, kind of a Polaroid. I can literally shake it like a Polaroid picture on my phone. That was a bad joke, but you know what? It's Friday. It's Bad Joke Friday, my friends. So you got a nice camera there. And I actually wanted to highlight one other setting that I thought was pretty cool in this camera the time that I worked with it. Go back here. We'll take a look. Let me find it. Yeah, normal. Go back to normal. Options. You, of course, got your resolution. I can change the resolution down or up. It's at 8 megapixels right now. Timer, exposure, and more. Then again, you can flip it around. Hello. And then I can go over here and do a panorama shot as well, which I find particularly useful. And then, of course, I can do videos, all the stuff you would expect from a camera. And keeping in mind the price point, not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Panorama, boom. And I never do this as well as I should. Move horizontally to start capture. This is going to be like literally the worst panorama ever, but we'll see how it looks. Move in the same direction. It's like, hey, you idiot, do you know what a panorama is? Did you get the idea? Capture is canceled. You better believe it's canceled. Show you the dialer real quick, and forgive me while I pull it away. I want to make sure none of my calls are in there. You can see obviously a very heavily Pantech customized dialer here with buttons, very colorful down here at the bottom, messaging, calls, and more, and then tabs for your recent and your favorites up top. I pointed this out in part 1, but I dig this as well, these little mini applications. Music is the only one that comes right here out of the box, but I can click on it, and it lets me drag my music around on the home screen, so I can shift, and it just kind of remains right there in multitasking form, which I think is pretty cool. And when I'm done, I can get rid of it. All in all, I like the Pantech Perception, much like I've liked other Pantech devices released this year. They're doing a good job. They're getting back into the smartphone field. They're making devices that are reasonably inexpensive, but they're good devices as well. Dual-core processor. I wish it had Android 4.1. I kind of am frustrated that it only has Android 4.0, but hey, you know what? You win some, you lose some. 1 gigabyte of RAM instead of 2, kind of frustrating, but still 8 megapixel camera, not bad by any stretch of the imagination, and it's $100 on Verizon. Would I buy this over the Galaxy S3 or over the iPhone 4S? Don't know that I would. I still think specifications wise the Galaxy S3 beats this in a couple of different places. The RAM, obviously, Android 4.1, and then of course the pre-installed software value adds that you get from Samsung, and then of course from Apple with the ecosystem as well. I do like this. I think this is a pretty cool feature, and again, for where they are, keeping in mind Pantech hasn't been in the smartphone game that long, they're doing really well. I like the device. I'd recommend it, but still, if somebody came to me and said, which one would you recommend between the two, I'd probably still go Galaxy S3 at the price point. If this were to drop $79, $49, I'd say this all day long. It really is a solid smartphone. It's just they're falling victim to that whole Galaxy/iPhone life cycle where when something new comes out, they take the old one, they drop the price, and they move forward. And unfortunately, that's something they're falling victim to right here. Much like over all the years we've talked about iPhones, how they create the tiered system, now Samsung's doing that with the Galaxy stuff. It's just the way the industry works. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for continuing coverage. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron, and I'm on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, Google+, G+.to/PhoneDog. Thanks for watching. Much more coverage to come on the Pantech Perception on Verizon Wireless on PhoneDog.com. That was a lot of ons, but you get my point. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.